The Ashfall Warzone had claimed thousands. Zarikian death squads swept through the settlements like wildfire, their plasma claws leaving nothing but scorched earth and silent screams. They were apex predators, 8 feet of bioengineered horror with exoskeletons that could deflect railgun fire and sensory organs that detected heartbeats from half a mile away. Kayla Thorne had heard the stories. Every human soldier in the outer colonies knew the Xerikians hunted by cardiac rhythm, that they savored the terror-quickened pulse of their prey. But when she found Rivek huddled in the ruins of the medical bay, his silvery fur matted with blood and his 3 eyes wide with shock, none of that mattered. Rivek was a Sylvari cub, barely 6 cycles old. His people were pacifists, scholars, their bodies fragile as porcelain. The Xerikians had butchered his entire caravan for sport. Now this small creature, no larger than a human child, pressed against Kayla's combat armor and made a sound like breaking glass. "I've got you," Kayla whispered, even though her tactical display showed 12 Xerikian signatures closing in. Even though her squad was dead. Even though the extraction point was 7 clicks through an active kill zone. She ran. The first Xerikian emerged from the smoke like a nightmare-given form. Its mandibles clicked a hunting song, and its head cocked toward them with predatory precision. Kayla fired her plasma rifle, the blast catching it in the thorax. It screeched and fell, but 3 more materialized from the haze. Rivek's heartbeat thundered against her chest. The cub was terrified, his pulse racing at twice human speed. The Xerikians would track it like a beacon. Kayla made a choice. She sealed Rivek inside an emergency stasis pod she'd scavenged from the wreckage, the kind that suppressed all vital signs. The cub's eyes met hers through the translucent shell, and she saw the question there, the fear, the hope. "Stay quiet," Kayla said. "Stay alive." Then she activated the pod's camouflage field and ran in the opposite direction, firing wildly, screaming into the smoke, drawing every monster toward the drumbeat of her own defiant heart. They came for her like a tide. 6, 10, 20. Kayla fought with everything she had, her rifle overheating, her armor cracking under plasma strikes. She killed 4 before they overwhelmed her. Claws raked across her chest, tearing through armor and flesh. She felt her ribs snap, felt the hot rush of blood filling her lungs. As she fell, Kayla's last thought was of Rivek, safe, hidden, alive. The Xerikians left her corpse in the ash and moved on to hunt fresh prey. But death had different plans. The nanite swarm in Kayla's bloodstream had been experimental. A last resort trauma response system that the military scientists said was still in beta testing. It was supposed to stabilize catastrophic injuries, nothing more. But as Kayla's heart stuttered and stopped, the nanites flooded her system with a desperate fury. They rebuilt, they repaired, they refused to let her die. Kayla's heart restarted with a sound like thunder. Across the war zone, every Xerikian froze. Their sensory organs vibrated with confusion and then terror. They heard it. That impossible heartbeat. Stronger than before. Slower. Deeper. A rhythm that spoke of something that should be dead but wasn't. Something that had crossed beyond and returned with edges sharper than before. Kayla opened her eyes. Her vision was different now, overlaid with data streams and threat assessments. Her body felt wrong and right simultaneously. Muscles reinforced by nanite weaves. Nerves firing faster than humanly possible. She stood, and the ash fell from her like a shroud. The Xerikians had made a mistake. They had given her time to evolve. Kayla moved through the war zone like a ghost, her heartbeat a war drum that announced her presence. But now, instead of prey, she was the hunter. The nanites had mapped every Xerikian signature, had calculated their patterns, their weaknesses. Where once Kayla had been merely human, now she was something more. Something forged in death and reborn in vengeance. She found the first pack, surrounding a cluster of refugee shelters. They were playing with their victims, savoring the fear. Kayla didn't give them time to react. She moved with inhuman speed, her combat knife augmented by nanite-sharpened edges that carved through exoskeleton like paper. 3 fell, before the others even registered the threat. The remaining Zarikians turned toward her, and Kayla saw the recognition in their compound eyes. They knew that heartbeat. They had stopped it once. "Round 2, Kayla said, and smiled without humor. The battle was brief and brutal. The Zarikians fought with desperate savagery. But Kayla's body anticipated every strike, her augmented reflexes turning their attacks into opportunities. When the last one fell, she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Rivek was still out there, still hiding, still waiting for rescue. She tracked back to the medical bay ruins, following the beacon she'd embedded in the stasis pod. Rivek was there, exactly where she'd left him. The pod's power supply flickering but holding. Kayla deactivated the camouflage field and opened the shell. The cub looked up at her with those 3 enormous eyes, and slowly, carefully, reached out a small paw to touch her hand. Where her skin had been torn and bloody, now it was laced with faint silver tracings, nanite scars that pulsed with her heartbeat. "Kayla Thorne?" Rivek's voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah, kid, it's me. You died. I heard your heart stop." Kayla lifted Rivek from the pod and held him close. Around them, the Warzone had gone quiet. The Xerikians had withdrawn, their hunting songs replaced by wary silence. They had learned that some prey bites back, that some deaths are just intermissions. "I got better," Kayla said softly, "and now I'm getting you home." As they moved through the ash and smoke toward the evacuation point, Kayla's augmented hearing picked up distant heartbeats. Survivors, dozens of them, hiding in the ruins, waiting for the monsters to pass. Her own heartbeat steadied into a rhythm that spoke of protection, of defiance, of a promise kept. Every Xerikian in the Warzone could hear it now. Let them understand that humanity doesn't stay down. That when you hurt one of theirs, you don't just face vengeance, you face resurrection. Rivek nestled against her armor, his own heartbeat finally slowing to something peaceful. "What happens now?" he asked. Kayla looked out at the Warzone, at the shelters still standing, at the survivors who would need protecting until reinforcements arrived. Her hand tightened on her rifle. "Now?" She smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had died once and learned there were worse things than death. Worse things for her enemies, at least. "Now we make sure every monster in this war zone remembers what happens when they mess with a human's cub." Her heartbeat echoed through the ruins like a promise, like a threat, like hope made manifest in flesh and nanites and unbreakable will. The Zarikians heard it and understood. The hunt had changed, and they were no longer the hunters.